Pets over people. Earth Crisis was probably the pets over people.
Cat breed too.
Now is the time to knock your shit off the table. Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes in Ben and Kay from Matriarchs. How are y'all today?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here.
Doing super well, man. Doing super well on this Monday.
I dig it. I like it. I love repping the upstate camo shirt. Okay.
Yeah.
Looking sharp. And props and shout out just right off the bat to Upstate Records, to Mario and Kim for everything they do for their scene. And putting out these killer bands from all over the world and really doing it with a lot of old school values. I see a dog in the background. I'm so excited.
We got dogs, cats, lizards, snakes, mantises. We got all kinds of stuff in this house.
Love it. Well, the more pets, the better.
I'm saying.
Pets over people.
Yeah.
For real. There needs to be a band that's like, I guess Earth Crisis
Pets over
was.
people.
Pets over people. Earth Crisis was probably the pets over people.
Cat breed too.
Now is the time to knock your shit off the table. Dead Man, reissue, re-release single, new version of an old song coming out soon. We're dropping it here at Ghost Cult. I'm super excited. I love the track, dug that old record. You guys have been super busy, new singles, new video, recent album, You're the Rat, which was very fitting for 2020 because it felt like a sinking ship full of rats just in general in life. But how are you, first and foremost, both of you? Obviously this has been a very tough time, and I don't ever want to lose that personal human thing where I ask people how they're doing. People have lost people. You guys have lost money, not being able to tour. You had big plans for the year to support the album and everything. So first and foremost, as much as I'm really happy to talk about music and everything else, I just want to make sure you guys are okay. Your friends and family are in one piece as much as possible. How are y'all?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, despite all the negativity of the last year, I feel very blessed and fortunate to have been a part of Matriarchs. Like Ben hit me up last summer during lockdown, and he was like, hey, do you want to feature on a song? And I was like, yeah. One song turned to 4 songs, turned to a whole album. Then he asked if I wanted to join the band, and naturally I said of course. So I feel very fortunate in that way that I've had an outlet during this time to work on a full-length album. And it was my first time working on a full-length album. I've done EPs in the past, but I've never done something to this extent. So it was really cool to actually get to do something this big and this meaningful, really.
Basically for us, I mean, this has been like a good outlet creatively to get, to stay sane on a couple of different levels. For me, during the pandemic, I mean, work completely ceased. I'm a concert ticket reseller. So, I mean, live events stopped basically for a year. So there was no work, nothing to do. So this definitely kept me busy and was a healthy outlet also to just kind of like express ourselves. I think everybody kind of was on the same page with that, gave us something to do, and we're all pretty grateful for that. And some good stuff came out of it. We're really proud of the record. I'm super proud of it. Super happy to have met her, and that shit just took off. Like, we just never had any issues creatively. We're still writing new stuff now even, so it's not stopping. We're just keep going.
Awesome. That's really exciting to hear. And I appreciate both of you. And I'm so glad that you guys are on this course that is, continuing to unfold. I think it's kind of funny. I think hardcore music is the music we need to get through this time of the world more than anything. I know, I love music as an escape, but I think I was never a true hardcore kid. I was always on the periphery of the scene and sort of the second and third wave as a teenager and a young adult in New York. And I always admired things about hardcore that I felt like the metal scene lacked. And so I always had a lot of friends in bands and went to a lot of shows and CBs and stuff like that. I have a series here on YouTube called War Stories. It's not about war, but it's about my experiences as a fan and somewhat as a journalist. And my first actual show ever as a hardcore show was Burn and Mucky Puppet CBs in like the late 80s on a matinee that was all like a rare thing for me to go to. And I was like a wide-eyed metalhead kid. So I feel like everything comes around full circle. I feel like there's an awesome thread in Matriarchs music that really runs through from like the whole history of the genre. And I wanted to kind of get your opinion on if you feel like that's a good take and what are the things that inspired you to start making music and get into this scene in the first place?
I mean, I think the way you just described it is like really familiar to me. That was like kind of how I was introduced to hardcore. I started listening to metal first. There wasn't actually, I mean, in LA, especially when I was like 16, 17, there wasn't, I didn't have access to it. Whatever scene there was or whatnot, it wasn't accessible to me. So I kind of accidentally discovered it. It was actually through the mainstream. Hatebreed was the first kind of big band that like I was like, whoa, what's this? This is like a little different. It's not just your standard metal. And then somehow well, you know what? I started playing music, and I was like, I would cite that band as like like a reference that I wanted to, play something similar to that. And then I started meeting other people, other musicians, and they kind of got me into like, oh, well, if you like that, let me play you this, let me play you that. And then I started discovering the Orange County metalcore and hardcore scene, because in Orange County it's mostly metalcore, but it's the hardcore ethic. You know what I mean? It was just the style was a little different, but it was, so I got introduced to all that stuff. And so, I mean, and I fell in love with the culture. I fell in love with like the scene and the way that it worked, because it was a little more tight knit. There's obviously drama and, high school bullshit or whatever, but for the most part, there's a standard. There's something that you got to kind of like live up to, as far as like being part of it and being respected in it. And it keeps you in check, and it like lets you grow as a person. It makes you accountable. So I really appreciated that, and that stuck with me my whole life. From I've been playing since I was 16, so I'm 36 now. So it's been a while, and I've always tried to keep that, the ethics and the culture as part of the thematic element of the music. So no matter how metal we get, I mean, it's still a hardcore culture band where we come from that. So that's, yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, and for me, I remember when I was like 15 or 16, going back to Hatebreed, discovering them on like a Victory Records compilation DVD that came out, and I was like obsessed with the band and bought the CD. And I remember my mom actually taking my Hatebreed CD away from me and saying, "You can't listen to this music. It's affecting you negatively." And then fast forward to 2017, I'm working on Vans Warped Tour. Hatebreed is playing every night, and I'm calling my mom like, "Hey, you remember when you took my CD away? Like now I'm like touring with this band." Like it's crazy. But I mean, personally, I come from like the post-hardcore metalcore scene as far as like writing style goes and like music genre. But going into with Matriarchs, like it's been fun to kind of incorporate my background into what we're doing here. And I think we've been able to kind of bring those worlds together pretty well.
Awesome, that's so rad. I definitely have a lot of early Hatebreed memories of JB like almost getting dropped off by his mom in a janky car, and he had a really high pitched voice as like a young guy, and then he would scream and he'd be like, "Holy shit, how's that guy do that?"
It's wild.
um,
I actually run into like YouTube videos of them playing like old stuff, and he's got like this baby face. He's like 16, 17, and then the voice comes out and it's him, but when he's like talking or whatever, he's just like this. It's crazy. Yeah.
and also I want to pay respect to Jamie, because just since we're talking about Hatebreed a little bit, that he really, in terms of just kind of realized, self-actualized, like I want to be in a huge band, and he took like a little hardcore band from New Haven, Connecticut, and turned it into an international thing for 25, 26 years is mind-blowing, like in a DIY sense. And I still, I know a lot of people are like, well, DIY is kind of a slogan, and it's, was co-opted, and it's not. But I'm very, even in what I do, I like the DIY ethos is important to me. And I think it should be important to anybody starting out. And if you want a good blueprint about, maybe you may not be able to do it exactly the way he did it, but it's still a really good blueprint to follow, like how to endear yourself and create a fan base and keep re-energizing it. It's very admirable.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of independence, just because, it's a lot harder. It's a
Mm,
lot harder without like that support, but you also don't have to answer to anybody as far as like what you want to say.
yeah.
And for me, like the most important thing is like that you have something to say. Like we're artists, we're trying to create art, you know what I mean? And like actually comment on life and whatnot. So sometimes sometimes you're the only driving force, in the beginning. You don't have anybody kind of like backing you up, and you got to just believe in yourself and keep going. But after a serious grind, I mean, you get that momentum, and you can accomplish things. I mean, I've seen some crazy shit happen with other bands as well. I mean, look at Knock Loose.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, Knock Loose, Code Orange, this new sort
Huge
of
band,
wave of bands that sort of hardcore came from hardcore, turnstile, becoming something else, taking other elements, not
Yeah.
being afraid, having a fan base, having a trust between a band and a fan. Like, hey, are you cool if we do something wacky? You may not love everything we do, but we're taking risks and we're doing things our way, keep it true. And I think maybe that's a positive, like in a positive sense, coming from the before the streaming era. Maybe it's maybe it's a good thing about streaming that people are like a little more willing and open, but I'm not sure. We'll find out.
Yeah, exactly.
Just before we flip forward and talk about Dead Man and Year of the Rat and things. So I love hearing the sort of the backstories, and obviously Matriarchs has been around a while. Kay, for you, how did you kind of get in? Obviously, maybe this has been part of your life and your lifestyle for a long time, but how did you pick up a mic, or what was the inspiration for you to start, yelling into a electric stick?
Yeah. So it's actually kind of a funny story. When I was like 15, maybe 14 or 15, I think I was in 8th grade. My friend, I was like big with like the scene kids or the emo kids back in the day. Had like my hair was dyed half whatever color, half whatever. It changed all the time. And my friends and I were listening to From First to Last at during our lunch break, and Ride the Wings of Pestilence came on, and my friends were like, "Okay, you should scream that part in the song." And I was like, haha, okay. And I did it, and I could actually do it. And then I went home that day, recorded a cover of Bodies by Drowning Pool, uploaded it to YouTube. And that's kind of where everything started for me. So I've been doing vocals for a long time at this point. I've been in a couple different projects. I grew up partially in Oklahoma, and then when I was 16, my family actually moved to the Middle East. So I had to kind of find my musical outlet over there, and joined my first band called Nightmare Overdose. And we were a melodic hardcore band. So we played one show with 5 other bands in a warehouse where this guy like built cars, because that was the only place we could play a show in Dubai as metal bands. So it was a very interesting time, very difficult. And then moved to Australia, joined another band there, and then moved to California and continued pursuing music. And then fast forward to last year, I dove really heavily into TikTok as a vocalist. So my manager for the longest time was trying to get me on TikTok. And I was like, I am not a dancer. I don't do that. Like, that's not my thing. And he was like, you just got to find your niche. And so we found out that there were all these trending songs every week. There's new trending sounds and songs. So we decided to, a friend of mine and I decided to create metal versions of those trending sounds so that the metal community on TikTok had sounds to use for their videos. And then Ben found me through TikTok and hit me up on Instagram, I believe. And that's where everything started as far as like joining Matriarchs goes. So thank you, TikTok.
Nice. Social media actually doing the social thing it's supposed to do.
Yeah,
Connect
Yes.
people rather than be a horrible dumpster fire of a thing.
definitely.
That's so great. How about you, Ben? How did you get started making music? And you said since you're 16. So what was the thing? What was the band? What was the I want to do that? What was the thing that made you do that?
Well, I've come from like everybody in my family, like my dad, my grandfather, like on both sides, my uncles, my great grandfather, they all played guitar. Mostly classical flamenco, like nylon guitar. And so I always had it around. My dad was also like a DJ and stuff like that. So I always had like music around me. And then around 16, that's like the angsty kind of when you're going through your stuff and you're getting into your music and whatever. So, it just kind of came naturally. I just like picked up my dad's old guitar and started teaching myself how to play. And the first stuff I was, learning was Nirvana songs and Soundgarden songs and stuff like that. And then after a while, I got into heavier and heavier music and kind of took off from there. I started my first band probably when I was like 19, I think. And basically like a lot like the original members of Matriarchs were also members of, like, I had played with them in my other bands that I had started, years back. So I've kind of kept the same circle of people in bands that I've worked with for the last like 15, 20 years.
Awesome, awesome stuff. And then, like, fast forwarding now, so Dead Man, why did you pick that track to sort of resuscitate and redo with Kay? It's a banger, and this interview will come out invariably after the video has been seen by everybody. The video is awesome. I love animated anything, and it's so perfect. It's so perfectly done. I love it so much.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I think it's kind of there's a couple of different reasons why we did it. We released three different old songs. We redid three songs and we released them. It was definitely partly something personal for me, mostly just party because we did part ways with our other vocalist. Um, not it's not an there's nothing negative there, but it's definitely was kind of like a left a rift in me. The band is definitely family to me. It's an emotional thing. We don't make any money doing this, so we're doing this for the other benefits, spiritual, psychological benefits and whatnot. And so that was a big thing for me when he exited. So it's a little bit of closure, just because I felt a little, I, I wanted it to be that, I want people to know, and I want to feel like this is still the same band. It's just growing, it's evolving. And when came in, she comes in with her own style, her own influences, her own everything. It's her unique voice, and she's bringing that to Matriarchs, and it's changing it. So I wanted to kind of like bridge that in a way by having her kind of redo some of the old stuff and like put her own spin on it or her own soul on it, so that it would be more of a unique, complete growth, I guess, as for lack of a better term. The reason why I picked Dead Man specifically is one, it's one of my favorite songs. It's always been one of my favorite songs to play live. People tend to go off even if they don't know us or anything. It's just kind of a heavy song. It's got good mosh parts in it. And I like the message. I'm a big fan of that message in general. Um, and I think that it's as relevant now as it's ever been. And that, I mean, I'm not sure if the message is that clear or not, but I mean, basically it's trying to say that, there's always somebody kind of like trying to tell you that they know what's right for you. And they're like kind of, there's always somebody on the media, everybody's always picking a leader, picking a side, you know, and trying to tell you what causes to take up and what to get offended by and what not to get offended by and what you're supposed to be okay with and what you're not. And it kind of, and all with the theme of trying to make everybody more unified, but in the action, it actually makes everybody more divided because people just take more harder stances and they don't want to listen to the opposite end. It seems to be like kind of the trend that I'm seeing. And so I like to encourage people to think for themselves and, realize that, nobody really has any idea what they're doing. And like, your idea of your personal experience is as valid as whatever somebody else is telling you. So follow yourself, and don't worry about, it's a pretty common hardcore theme, no gods, no masters, no leaders, you're true to yourself.
Right on. As much as I love any kind of science fiction and fantasy stuff, it's always hardcore that keeps it real. And we need that truth telling in our music, especially now more than ever. So that's awesome. And Kay, what was it like for you to come in and get to sort of redo these? Obviously, there's no shows to play, so you don't have the opportunity to kind of get out there and do these songs live yet. But what's it like for you to come out and put your own stamp on this material?
Yeah, so I mean, even with Year of the Rat, there were a couple songs like Dogma, it was mostly done by Frankie from Emure, and I came in and added my touch to it, and that was super cool to get to do a song with Frankie. And for Dead Man and for the older songs that we're redoing, it's really cool that Ben has given me the opportunity to kind of make my, like you said, put my stamp on those as well. Especially for Dead Man, like I love the end of the song, especially like it's just very hard hitting. And very in your face, and I love that style of music. And so to be able to redo these songs, and they even like the mastering is, redone on the songs, and it sounds excellent. It sounds so much more refined, and I love getting to redo songs like that. And even doing like for my other project, Chasing Satellites, like I love doing acoustic versions of songs as well. Like that's I just getting to reimagine a song is so special. And so it's been a really cool process. And as far as the video goes, like I told Ben a while back, like I've always wanted to be like a superhero. I've always wanted to be a cartoon. Like I've always wanted to be put into like an animated thing. And so we've been able to do a couple things now. With our song Sleep, we have an animated video, and with this one, we've got an animated video, and it's been absolutely so exciting to see ourselves as these animated characters. It's super cool, and I hope we continue to do that in the future.
Awesome. Just owing to the fact that we're, still coming through this global catastrophe, and I ask this question of every band, especially hardcore bands, because the hardcore live experience is so much of being as one, no barricades. A lot of times, people on top of each other grabbing the mic. When are you guys going to feel kind of safe to play gigs, play a tour? When do you think that's going to happen for you personally?
Well, we've been working on stuff. We're not actually able to say anything about anything right at this
Sorry.
moment. We've had a couple of things like done, like we're gonna go, and then they don't get canceled, but they get like kind of rescheduled, and then we don't really know when it's gonna happen, but it's going to happen. We have a lot of plans like firm, like it's about to happen. We're pretty much ready as far as, I mean, I think Kay, you're ready, right? I mean, I think we're,
If we could play a show tonight, I would play a show tonight.
yeah, we're pretty much, I mean, we're down at this point. Like we're
Yeah.
not scared of it. We're just trying to make it all get done. There's, every you hit up a promoter, you're like, we want to play a show. It's like get in line. We there's a huge stack of big players that need to get done first before we get our opportunity. But we're definitely ready.
Right on. Not that this is our scene, but I think it's very encouraging and says a lot about the appetite of fans that like Corey Taylor's sold out solo tour sold out immediately, and Ginger, I think, tour almost sold out immediately as the first two sort of big level things to get announced. But yeah, I'm hopeful things are going to come back like they were. I
Yeah.
believe the fans are hungry. As soon as it's safe, we can all safely gather. I think hardcore is hard because people, that closeness again, everybody, the mosh pit as one, everybody at the rail, everybody at the foot of the stage, no rail, no barricade. That's
Mhm.
in my mind what I would like to get back to. We'll see. I hope
Yeah.
it's as soon as possible for everybody involved. And I feel like Year of the Rat is got a lot of legs and needs to get played live, and everybody needs to hear these songs. So
Definitely.
I
And I
hope it.
mean I mean, look at like Australia. They're having live shows right now. I've got a couple photographer friends out there that are shooting these shows, and they're mostly all completely sold out no matter how big the band is, because people are, like you said, super hungry for live entertainment to come back. So we're kind of looking at them as an example. Them in New Zealand, they're having festivals, so it's crazy right now out there because they, for lack of a better phrase, did it right. So they knew what they were doing and how to bring shows back, and now they're totally sold out, and it's absolutely incredible to see.
Well, fingers crossed that's the same for us in six
Yeah.
months or a year or less, if possible. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today and sharing your story. I am rooting for you personally and professionally. You're not supposed to have bands you root for and favorites, but I really dig what you guys do, especially since you came in, Kay, and just all the respect and props to you for keeping your heads up and persevering at this time.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having us. We appreciate you.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thanks so
hanging.
much.